Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when you will encounter disrespect, when others attempt to undermine your character, belittle your achievements, or even provoke you into a reaction. The question then becomes, how do you respond? How do you handle the storm of negativity, the barrage of criticism, and the subtle jabs that may be thrown your way? Well, here's the thing. When faced with disrespect, the first thing you must understand is that you are not defined by the words or actions of others. You are defined by your own ability to rise above it, to transcend the urge to react impulsively, and instead remain centered. The impulse to lash out, to shout back in anger is natural. It's rooted in the ego, which is fragile, and when it's attacked, the instinct to defend and protect it kicks in. But the wise person understands that reacting to disrespect is often the most counterproductive thing you can do. You see, when you respond with anger, when you lash out in retaliation, you become a slave to the very disrespect that's been directed toward you. You give the disrespect power over you and you lose control. The act of reacting out of impulse, of answering insult with insult, lowers you to the level of the person disrespecting you. It's an unnecessary escalation that leads nowhere productive. Now think about it for a moment. Why should you let someone else's words dictate your emotional state, your actions, your path forward? Why should their inability to respect you, their failure to see your worth, lead you to react in a way that harms yourself? When you remain quiet, you gain something far more valuable than a momentary victory in a verbal exchange. You gain control, you gain peace of mind, and you retain your dignity. Remaining silent after disrespect doesn't mean you are weak. It doesn't mean you accept the disrespect. It means that you are strong enough to recognize that some battles are not worth fighting. It's about understanding that there are more important things at play than the petty games of egos. When you stay quiet, you are asserting your maturity. You are saying, I don't need to defend myself to you because I know my worth. And I don't need to engage in a foolish exchange. But let's dig deeper. Silence in this case is not just an absence of words. It's a strategic decision. You're choosing your energy. You're choosing how you will invest your time. And you're choosing to maintain your self-respect. There's power in restraint. Power in letting the storm of insults and disrespect pass you by without reacting. People who respect themselves don't feel the need to prove anything to others. Their actions speak louder than words ever could. They know who they are, and they carry themselves with an inner assurance that does not rely on external validation. Of course, there are moments when silence is not enough. When the time comes to address disrespect directly, to confront it with clarity and purpose, that's a different matter entirely. But in the heat of the moment, when emotions are high, when insults are flying, silence offers you an opportunity to reflect, to compose yourself, and to approach the situation from a place of reason rather than reaction. In a world where chaos often reigns, where disrespect can sometimes feel like a constant companion, remember this: you hold the power to remain calm, to stay quiet in the face of negativity. This control over your response is what allows you to shape your destiny, to live your life on your terms. Stay quiet when you're disrespected, not because you fear confrontation, but because you have better things to do than to get caught up in an unnecessary battle. Keep your focus on what truly matters. Your peace, your purpose, and your growth are worth far more than engaging in every petty disagreement that comes your way. When we are disrespected, it's natural to feel the urge to react, to defend ourselves, to assert our dignity. The immediate response, often driven by emotion, is to fire back with words or actions that mirror the disrespect we've just received. This reaction, though instinctive, is one that can have consequences that can hurt not only our relationships with others, but more importantly, our own sense of peace and control. The true challenge in these moments is to pause and take control of how we respond, rather than allowing ourselves to be swept away by the emotions of the moment. The first key to understanding the importance of staying quiet after disrespect is recognizing that reaction is not always the best course of action. In fact, sometimes it can be the most destructive. When we react impulsively, we are essentially giving away our power. We allow someone else's behavior, someone else's failure to respect us to dictate how we feel and how we act. This surrender of control, while it may feel satisfying in the short term, often leads to regret and unnecessary conflict in the long run. This is where self-control comes into play. Self-control is the ability to manage our emotions and actions in response to external events. It's the ability to respond to the world in a measured, deliberate way rather than allowing our emotions to control us. Self-control is not about suppressing our feelings or denying our natural impulses. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond. It's understanding that we can decide to act in a way that aligns with our values rather than reacting in a way that is driven by the moment's emotions. When we choose to stay silent in the face of disrespect, we are making a conscious decision to retain control over our response. We are telling ourselves that we will not let the actions of others determine how we feel. This does not mean we are accepting the disrespect or tolerating mistreatment. Far from it. Staying silent is not about passively accepting negative behavior. It's about asserting control over our emotional state and maintaining our dignity. Think about the power that silence holds in these moments. When we stay quiet, we do not allow the other person to pull us into a conflict. They might continue with their disrespectful words or actions, but we are not playing into their game. We are choosing to step back and not engage with their negativity. In this way, silence becomes a form of emotional self-regulation, a way to protect ourselves from unnecessary escalation and emotional turmoil. Moreover, staying quiet allows us to maintain a sense of peace in the face of disrespect. Emotions like anger, frustration, or resentment can quickly take over, clouding our judgment and our ability to think clearly. When we remain silent, we create a space for calmness. This moment of quiet allows us to distance ourselves from the initial emotional reaction, giving us the time to reflect and choose a more measured response, if any response at all. The quietness also signals to the other person that their behavior is not having the desired effect. They may be expecting a confrontation, an argument, or a defensive response. When we don't react in the way they anticipate, we disrupt their narrative and deny them the satisfaction of seeing us upset. This is not about playing games or trying to win by remaining composed. It's simply about reclaiming control of the situation. The other person may continue to disrespect us, but their words will no longer have the same impact if we remain unaffected. Additionally, staying quiet allows us to retain our dignity. In moments of disrespect, there is a temptation to retaliate or to engage in a verbal sparring match to set the record straight. However, when we engage in this way, we often lower ourselves to the level of the person disrespecting us. The act of defending ourselves in this manner can end up being more damaging to our self-respect than the disrespectful act itself. Staying quiet, on the other hand, sends a message that we do not need to stoop to their level. We know who we are, and we do not need to prove anything. Our silence is a reflection of our own strength, a quiet but powerful assertion of self-respect. In the long term, learning to stay quiet in the face of disrespect is a skill that empowers us to take control of our emotional landscape. It teaches us that we are not at the mercy of others' actions or words. Instead, we are the ones who determine how we respond. And this self-determination is one of the most powerful forms of freedom we can have. By choosing silence, we choose not to give away our power. We choose to stay grounded, to stay true to ourselves, and to maintain control over how we engage with the world around us. When faced with disrespect, the natural instinct is often to retaliate, to defend our honor, and to assert our worth. We feel an internal pressure to respond, to prove that we are not worthy of such treatment, to show that we are valuable. This desire to protect our self-image can be powerful. However, there is a deeper truth that must be understood. Staying quiet in these moments can be one of the most profound ways to affirm our own sense of worth and maintain our dignity. Our sense of self-worth should not be contingent upon the opinions or actions of others. The external world is unpredictable, and people, for various reasons, may act in ways that diminish our value in their eyes. They may disrespect us, belittle us, or criticize us unfairly. But the key to resilience is understanding that their words or actions do not define us. We define ourselves through our values, actions, and beliefs. When we allow ourselves to be shaken by disrespect, we allow others to determine our sense of worth. And this is a dangerous path to walk. In moments of disrespect, silence is not a sign of weakness, it is an assertion of strength. It says, I do not need to engage in this conflict because I know my worth. When we stay quiet, we are not ceding ground. We are standing firm in the knowledge that we do not need to justify ourselves or seek validation from those who do not value us. Our worth is not contingent upon their recognition. It exists independently of their approval. When we respond to disrespect with anger or harsh words, we are often trying to prove a point or defend our pride. We may be looking for acknowledgement or recognition, but in doing so, we often lower ourselves to the level of the person who disrespected us. Instead of rising above the situation, we engage in a back and forth that only serves to escalate the conflict. In these moments, we can easily forget that our dignity is maintained not by defending ourselves against every insult, but by holding ourselves to a higher standard. We don't need to prove our worth through confrontation. Our actions, our character, and our integrity already demonstrate it. Remaining silent in the face of disrespect allows us to preserve our dignity. It shows that we do not need to engage in petty disputes or defend our position to those who do not understand or respect us. This form of quiet resistance demonstrates an inner strength, an understanding that we are not defined by the opinions of others, especially when those opinions are rooted in negativity or ignorance. Furthermore, silence in the face of disrespect speaks to the importance of self-respect. When we choose not to engage, we are affirming that we value ourselves too much to get entangled in unnecessary conflict. There is a quiet strength in knowing when to walk away from a confrontation, to rise above petty insults, and to maintain our peace. Self-respect doesn't require us to fight every battle, and it certainly doesn't require us to constantly defend our value. We show self-respect by recognizing when it is more beneficial to remain composed and to let others' words or actions slide off us like water off a duck's back. This approach also conveys to others a profound message. We are not interested in seeking validation from them, nor are we willing to engage in negativity. It subtly forces others to reevaluate their behavior, because when someone's disrespect goes unanswered, they may be left questioning why their attempt to provoke a response failed. This can be a powerful lesson for those who try to diminish us. It shows that we are secure in our identity and don't need to stoop to their level. By remaining silent, we protect our emotional state and avoid further harm. Disrespect can stir up emotions such as anger, frustration, and humiliation. When we allow ourselves to engage in that emotional storm, we often make matters worse for ourselves. We can lose our composure, say things we don't mean, or create a situation that could have been avoided altogether. Staying quiet creates a space between the offense and our reaction, allowing us to process the situation without being swept away by emotions. This space is not just physical, but emotional and mental, offering us the opportunity to choose a more thoughtful, measured response, or in many cases, no response at all. The ultimate truth is that your value is inherent, and it cannot be diminished by the words or actions of others. When we stay quiet in the face of disrespect, we are choosing to acknowledge that truth. We are recognizing that no matter how others treat us, our worth remains intact. We choose to stand firm in the knowledge that we are not defined by external forces, and we need no one's validation to know our value. When we can internalize this truth, we are free from the need to seek approval, free from the need to defend ourselves against every insult, and free to live in alignment with our true selves. In a world where emotions often run high and conflicts can escalate quickly, silence has a unique power. It is not merely the absence of sound, but rather a conscious choice to withhold reaction and allow time to pass. In moments of disrespect, when the instinct is to retaliate or defend oneself, choosing silence is a strategic decision that holds more strength than it might initially appear to. Silence in the face of disrespect is not about being passive. It is an active decision to retain control over the situation, to steer clear of unnecessary confrontation, and to preserve personal peace. At its core, silence is an assertion of control. When we choose not to react in a moment of disrespect, we make a statement not only to others but also to ourselves. We are not governed by our immediate emotions. When someone disrespects us, it often triggers an emotional response, a surge of anger, frustration, or humiliation. The natural inclination is to immediately respond, to fight back, to restore our sense of dignity. However, reacting impulsively often leads to regret because it is driven by the heat of the moment rather than thoughtful reflection. It is in these moments that silence becomes an invaluable tool. By choosing silence, we take a step back and create space for ourselves. We do not allow the disrespect to immediately control our emotional state. Instead of reacting, we pause. In that pause, we regain a sense of clarity, and in that clarity, we find control. We don't let others dictate how we feel or how we behave. This is the power of restraint. It allows us to take a step out of the immediate emotional whirlpool and regain our footing. In doing so, we protect ourselves from impulsive actions that may later harm our relationships, reputation, or sense of peace. Silence also serves as a buffer between the disrespect and our response. It is easy to get swept up in a conflict, especially when it feels personal. Someone's disrespect may feel like an attack on our character or our worth, making us want to fight back immediately. But silence creates a pause, a moment of reflection. It allows us to assess the situation, consider the implications of any response, and decide whether it is worth engaging at all. Often the decision to stay quiet proves to be the wisest one because it prevents escalation and helps us maintain control over the situation. Moreover, silence can be a subtle form of resistance. When someone disrespects us and we choose not to respond, it communicates that their words or actions do not have the power to shake us. It's a quiet statement that their attempt to provoke us has failed. In this way, silence is a refusal to engage in a futile or toxic exchange. Rather than responding with the same negativity or aggression, we elevate ourselves above the situation. We are saying that we do not need to prove ourselves and we do not need to engage in petty conflicts. Our silence is a way of asserting our strength. This is not to say that silence means always ignoring disrespect. There are moments when it is necessary to stand up for oneself, to speak out against injustice, or to set boundaries with others. But in the heat of the moment, emotions are running high and mind tensions are at their peak. Silence allows us to gather our thoughts and consider the consequences of any words or actions. It is in these moments that restraint becomes a form of wisdom. Reacting in anger often leads to things being said that cannot be unsaid, while silence allows us to maintain our dignity and avoid unnecessary harm. In the long run, the power of silence is not only about avoiding conflict in the moment, but also about preserving emotional energy. Engaging in constant arguments or retaliating against every disrespectful comment can be exhausting. It drains us often for no purpose other than to prove a point. By choosing silence, we preserve our energy for what truly matters: our goals, our relationships, and our sense of self. We no longer allow minor slights or insults to divert us from our path. Instead, we learn to reserve our emotional energy for the battles that are truly worth fighting. Silence also provides us with an opportunity for growth. When we resist the urge to react, we give ourselves a moment to reflect on why the disrespect triggered such a response in the first place. We can examine our own emotional triggers, explore why certain words or actions feel so personal, and learn how to respond more thoughtfully in the future. In this way, silence becomes a powerful tool for self-awareness and personal development. Ultimately, silence is not about weakness, it is about strength. It is a choice to remain centered, to choose peace over conflict, and to assert control over our reactions. It is the ability to rise above negativity, to remain steadfast in our self-worth, and to protect our emotional well-being. In a world where reactions are often impulsive and driven by emotion, silence is a powerful tool for self-regulation and self-respect. It allows us to navigate the storms of life with clarity and composure without being dragged down by the weight of others' disrespect. In a world that constantly encourages quick reactions and immediate responses, silence offers a valuable opportunity for emotional clarity. The temptation to respond right away when disrespected is strong or emotions surge, and we feel as though we must act to protect ourselves, assert our boundaries, or defend our dignity. However, reacting impulsively in such moments can cloud our judgment and lead us down a path that might not serve us well. Silence In contrast, creates a space for reflection, allowing us to detach ourselves from the immediate emotional storm and consider the situation from a place of reason and calm. When we stay silent in the face of disrespect, we create an emotional buffer that allows us to step away from our immediate emotional reactions. In those initial moments of feeling disrespected, anger, hurt, or frustration can easily take over. These emotions are natural, but they are also powerful and can easily distort our perspective. By choosing silence, we avoid reacting in a way that might be driven by raw, unchecked emotion. Instead, we give ourselves the time and space needed to regain our emotional equilibrium. In that moment of silence, we can begin to process our emotions. We have time to ask ourselves, why did this situation affect me so deeply? We can analyze what triggered our response and what about the disrespect we received feels personal. This is a valuable exercise in emotional self-awareness. Often, disrespect triggers feelings of inadequacy, rejection, or humiliation. These are deeply rooted emotional responses that may not always align with the situation at hand. By staying quiet, we prevent ourselves from overreacting to emotions that may not be fully justified by the circumstances. We allow ourselves the mental space to separate the immediate emotional reaction from the deeper, more reasoned response that we might offer after reflection. This process of emotional clarity also allows us to assess the situation more objectively. In the heat of the moment, our perspective can become skewed, and we might misinterpret the intentions behind the disrespect. We might assume that the other person's actions are a personal attack on our character, when in reality, their behavior could be the result of their own struggles, insecurities, or misunderstandings. By taking a step back, we can gain a clearer understanding of the situation, which might reveal that the disrespect was not as intentional or damaging as it initially appeared. This shift in perspective helps us respond with more clarity, compassion, and thoughtfulness when we do choose to engage. Silence also allows us to examine our own boundaries and values. In moments of disrespect, we may feel compelled to react in ways that uphold our image or defend our pride. But through silence, we can reflect on whether defending ourselves in this particular situation is truly in alignment with our values. Are we reacting because we feel a genuine need to stand up for ourselves, or are we simply reacting to protect our ego? Silence gives us the ability to evaluate whether the situation is worth engaging in at all, or if it's better to simply let it pass and move forward. This level of introspection enables us to act in a way that is consistent with our long-term goals and values rather than being driven by momentary impulses. Another significant benefit of silence in these moments is that it gives us the opportunity to detach ourselves from the need for approval or validation. Many of us seek external affirmation to feel secure in our worth. When we are disrespected, we may feel compelled to react to prove that we are worthy of respect, to demonstrate that we will not be walked over. But silence removes that need for validation. When we remain silent, we assert that we do not need anyone else's approval to know our value. Our sense of self-worth is not determined by how others treat us or whether they respect us in the moment. This mindset frees us from the cycle of seeking validation and allows us to navigate the world with a sense of inner peace and self-assurance. Moreover, silence grants us the opportunity to choose how we want to respond should we decide to do so at all. Often when we respond impulsively, we say things we regret, or we escalate a situation unnecessarily. By pausing and taking a step back, we can ensure that our eventual response, if we choose to engage, is well thought out and measured. We have the chance to speak from a place of reason and understanding rather than out of frustration or anger. This makes our eventual response much more likely to have a positive outcome and to preserve the integrity of the interaction. By remaining silent, we also protect our emotional health. Disrespect can be emotionally draining, and engaging in a back-and-forth exchange of insults or arguments only exacerbates the emotional toll. When we stay silent, we refuse to expend unnecessary emotional energy on a conflict that does not serve our well-being. Instead, we conserve our emotional resources, ensuring that we have the energy to focus on what truly matters: our growth, our goals, and our relationships with the people who value and respect us. Silence, therefore, is not merely an absence of words, it is a powerful tool for emotional regulation. It allows us to create space between an emotional trigger and our response, fostering clarity and self-awareness. It gives us time to reflect on the situation, to detach from the emotional charge of the moment and to consider how we want to proceed. Through silence, we learn to navigate our emotions with more control, grace, and wisdom, enabling us to respond in ways that align with our values and preserve our peace of mind. In a world that constantly demands our attention, often filled with distractions and emotional turbulence, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. Life presents countless situations in which we could choose to engage in petty conflicts, arguments, or disagreements. However, when we allow ourselves to become embroiled in every instance of disrespect, we risk losing focus on our long-term goals, our inner peace, and our personal growth. Choosing silence in the face of disrespect is a powerful act of prioritization. It is a conscious decision to focus on what truly deserves our energy rather than getting sidetracked by the transient moments of negativity that life throws our way. When we react impulsively to disrespect, we divert our attention from our bigger goals. The immediate desire to defend ourselves or prove a point can consume us, making us forget the importance of the long-term vision we have for ourselves. This short-term emotional satisfaction of winning an argument or retaliating often comes at the expense of our emotional energy and mental clarity. We expend valuable resources on a battle that, in the grand scheme of things, has little impact on the trajectory of our lives. By remaining silent, we actively choose to redirect our energy away from the distractions of conflict and toward what truly matters: our personal growth, relationships, and well-being. When we allow ourselves to be swept up in every act of disrespect, we are letting external forces control our emotional landscape. We let the behavior of others dictate how we feel and how we respond. This external dependency leaves us vulnerable, constantly at the mercy of other people's words and actions. But when we choose silence, we reclaim control over how we respond to the world. We refuse to let others' negativity derail us from the things that matter most. We preserve our emotional space, keeping our focus on the broader picture and avoiding getting lost in the minutiae of every interaction. The decision to stay silent in the face of disrespect is also a commitment to protecting our peace. Constantly engaging in arguments or responding to disrespect can leave us feeling drained, anxious, or frustrated. These emotions can cloud our judgment and take away from our ability to focus on our deeper needs and aspirations. Choosing not to react means choosing peace over turmoil, inner stability over chaos. It's an investment in our mental and emotional well-being, allowing us to navigate life's challenges without getting bogged down by negativity. This peace is invaluable, and it allows us to maintain the energy necessary to pursue what truly contributes to our fulfillment and success. Moreover, staying silent frees us from the need to constantly seek approval from others. Often when we respond to disrespect, we do so with the hope of gaining recognition, validation, or a sense of victory. But this approach creates a dangerous cycle, one in which we seek external validation to feel secure in our worth. When we choose silence, we break free from this cycle. We no longer need others' opinions or respect to validate our sense of self. We affirm to ourselves that our value is not contingent upon the approval or recognition of others. We can walk through life with the quiet confidence that our worth is inherent, and we do not need to seek constant confirmation from the outside world. Additionally, staying silent helps us maintain our energy for the pursuits that align with our true values. Life is filled with opportunities for growth, learning, and connection. These are the things that deserve our energy, not trivial conflicts that only serve to distract us from our higher purpose. Every moment spent defending ourselves against petty disrespect is a moment we take away from focusing on our personal and professional aspirations. Choosing silence means choosing to invest in what truly brings us joy, fulfillment, and growth. It allows us to conserve our emotional resources for the things that matter most in our lives, rather than wasting them on distractions. Silence also serves as a reminder that we are in control of how we engage with the world. In the face of disrespect, we have the power to choose how we respond. We can decide whether we will engage in a toxic exchange or whether we will rise above it and preserve our peace. Choosing silence is a declaration of emotional maturity, a recognition that not every conflict is worth engaging in. It is the wisdom to understand that our time, energy, and emotional health are far too valuable to be wasted on every minor slight or insult. This awareness allows us to take charge of our interactions, ensuring that we invest our energy only in the things that are truly worth it. In the end, silence is not about ignoring the disrespect or allowing ourselves to be doormats. It is about recognizing that our time, energy, and emotional well-being are more important than engaging in every conflict. It's about understanding that we do not need to respond to every slight or insult to maintain our dignity. We are not defined by the opinions of others, and we do not need to engage in petty battles to prove our worth. By choosing silence, we preserve our focus on what truly matters: our goals, our peace, and our personal growth. In this way, silence becomes an act of self-respect, a conscious decision to invest our energy in the things that will truly enrich our lives. In the end, silence in the face of disrespect is not a sign of weakness or submission, but an act of profound strength and wisdom. It is a conscious choice to protect our emotional well-being, to rise above petty conflicts, and to preserve our energy for what truly matters. By choosing silence, we allow ourselves to maintain control over our emotions, assert our self-worth, and avoid unnecessary distractions. It is in these moments of restraint that we demonstrate our true power, not through reaction, but through measured calm and clarity. Silence empowers us to remain focused on our values, our goals, and the people who truly deserve our time and attention. When we stop responding to every disrespect, we free ourselves to move forward in life with purpose and peace. The true strength lies in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. And in those moments of silence, we find the clarity and power to move forward with grace.